We'd like to thank Clemson University and Erik Bakich for coming and kicking off our winter clinic. Entering his first year as head coach at Clemson, Erik Bakich served as head coach at Michigan the previous 10 seasons, leading the Wolverines to the 2019 College World Series Championship Series. In addition, he also served as head coach at Maryland. We'd like to welcome to the stage Erik Bakich.
All right, thank you for that thundering applause. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you to the SCBCA. Great to be here. Great to connect with you guys. I've got to look way over there, so I'm going to need my glasses to see it. And Nick, oh, here's the clicker. There we go. Couldn't see that either. My son, I was pitching to him a few years ago, and he was hitting those little plastic balls, and I threw a pitch. I never saw it off the bat until it was right here. Lime green ball, never forget it. Hit me right in the eye. Barely had time to get my eye closed, and it was like boom, 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 triple vision right away. And it went to the optometrist, went and had it looked at. It just doesn't seem to get better. And the doctor said, well, it may affect your coaching. And so there was a while there that I thought I'd actually have to stop coaching and start umpiring. So. Anyways, I want to talk to you guys about a topic that is not unfamiliar to all of you. You guys all teach mental game and mindset and mental skills, and just the way we're going to frame it, just want to make it something that is usable for your programs. And this is something that we have incorporated into a classroom setting in our program. And we meet in the classroom every day. We start every day of training, we start in a classroom, not on the field. And so a lot of our fall has been neck up type stuff. And you look at this slide right here, and we're at a time in this tech boom of baseball where there is so much information out there that our players are drowning in it. They're fact checking, they're checking, they're on the internet for everything, and it's fancy radars, 3D motion capture, sensors, everything, and it just can get confusing, and you just need to simplify back to, of course we want to improve ball flight metrics, of course we want the ball to do better things, because we're all judged and measured on what that ball does, and so are the players and their recruiting opportunities, but the body moves the ball and the brain moves the body. And so the theme of what I'm going to talk to you guys tonight twice about is more, for me in this one, it's going to be mostly neck up in mental game mindset and mental skills. And then the next one is going to be more that body swing connection with a little bit of team offense. So mindset, you think about when we're talking mindset with our team, we're talking about the controllables. And we've all heard control the controllables, and this is nothing new. Everyone has seen this, and a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about, I'm a big believer in Ken Ravizza, who heads up baseball, and his teachings, and Brian Kane has learned from Ken as well, the late great Ken Ravizza. So a lot of this is going to be straight out of his playbook. But the controllables and mindset can really be the acronym APE. And that just stands for attitude and perspective and effort. And we have all this noise and all these things. And what's not on these slides is social media. And, imagine if we came through playing and if we did something silly, it might end up on Barstool. And we just didn't have to deal with that when we were coming through. And these kids all do. So, ways that these kids can help control their attitude, if you just think about what's the easiest thing they can do to work on to show a more positive attitude. And everybody goes, of course, to body language, right? But there's some science behind why there's actually some physiological and mental benefits from the neck up that help in this area. And this is body language. It's something that we preach in our program. We have standards. It's part of our shared language. We always have big body language and just always wanting to make it look like that we are carrying ourselves in a very positive way. And you don't see that often. You see a lot of bad posture. I mean, everybody just do a quick self-audit of how you're seated right now. And are you slouched back? Are you hunched over? Are your feet crossed? Are your arms crossed? Do you have good circulation? Are you seated up? Good posture. And These kids on that far picture to the side, and you look at that neck posture, well, that's because they're doing this all the time. But you think of it in sports, and what do we do in sports when things aren't going well? In sports, when things aren't going well, the body language, we start to get small. We make ourselves smaller. We start to just see if we can, not that they're going to get in that fetal position, but they just kind of shrink down. And the very opposite of that is when things are going well and we're winning and we're doing really well, we make ourselves big and we expand. And so there's some really cool shots. If you just think of winning teams and just that kind of that championship pose and that winning pose, and think of some successful people and some performers when they're projecting strength. So what you really have is you have this non-verbal communication. And all of us, just based on body language, without even saying anything, you guys are picking up a lot of very valuable information. It's forcing you to, or allowing you to think in a certain way, and it also leads to outcomes, and it leads to outcomes because there's someone else who is influenced by those nonverbals, and that's you. Specifically because as we make ourselves small and our posture is poor, and these kids aren't even aware of it, they're actually raising their cortisol levels in their body. Cortisol, which we all know, is that stress hormone, and that stress hormone impacts performance and athletic performance, because what you may not know is that cortisol is the #1 blocker of testosterone. And so it's not that as we get older that we all just lose our testosterone levels. It's, we have a lot of things going on. We've got families and jobs and more stress, and so that can limit that testosterone. Testosterone, obviously, can't take it unnaturally, but it's not something that as your high school kids are going through puberty and they're starting to get it, it allows lean tissue and lean muscle and their ability to get strong and recover. We just want to give them ways that maybe they can help get those cortisol levels down, get those good chemicals up, not just testosterone, but endorphins and serotonin and oxytocin and all the good brain chemicals. And so you just think about asking your players to just take a peek, take an audit, take a glimpse at how they sit, how they stand, the positions they get in, and are we asking them to just walk around campus and Superman pose? No, but what is really happening is they're going through competition. They're not always doing well, and so they're going to have to fake it a little bit, and they're going to have to get big, and they're going to have to act big, and they're going to have good big body language, because all of us, we all know this. If we are in the coaching business, we are in the confidence boosting business. So just a simple adjustment with body language to help not only show a more positive attitude, but to help maybe reduce those stress levels, which cortisol also leads to a lot of anxiety with these young kids. Perspective is training that we do inside of our program, and the way we define it is kind of this compared to what mentality. It's this mentality of, man, how lucky and fortunate we are to be where we are. If we ever think we're having a bad day or consumed by a small fire, minor emergency, well, compared to what? No, I'm doing pretty good. And we actually have our guys do perspective posters inside of our program. So you see that Clemson pick up there. I mean, how lucky was I that, got to get a start with Coach Leggett on his staff with Tim Corbin and Kevin O'Sullivan. And I got that picture framed in multiple places and just never forget what a lucky break that was to be surrounded by 3 future Hall of Famers. But it all happened because of the guy that's kneeling right next to Coach Leggett, and that's Keith LeClaire. And Keith LeClaire is the guy that Coach Schnabel and I played for at East Carolina in 1999 and 2000. Keith LeClaire and Jack Leggett are connected because Coach LeClaire played for Coach Leggett at Western Carolina, and then when Coach Leggett came to Clemson to be on Coach Wilhelm's staff, Coach LeClaire took over at Western. He ended up moving over, Coach LeClaire ended up moving over to East Carolina, and we were part of his first recruiting class. And I don't remember really much about X's and O's or anything mechanics or tactical that he taught from a game standpoint. But he had the ability to take a team and take that circle and make it really tight and make the players individually feel like they're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. He was a super motivator, and he was very successful. He was actually the fastest coach under the age of 35 to reach 350 wins in the history of college baseball. So you think about the trajectory that he was on. And our senior year, he had back surgery and he'd lost some weight. You could tell something was up. And the following year, East Carolina did even better. They won their regional. They're 2 wins away from going to the World Series. And he was in some pain. And they ended up they lost in the Super Regional, but a couple months later, he had some testing done, and he was diagnosed in August of '01 with Lou Gehrig's disease, with ALS. And the disease actually attacked him very quickly. In less than a year, he had lost all muscle function. He had lost the ability to talk, the ability to breathe. He was on a feeding tube, on a ventilator. The only thing he could do was blink. And so players and coaches and people would go in and see him, and he couldn't communicate with them. And most people in his situation would allow themselves to pass away, but not this guy. He gets one of those lasers, points it off of his eye onto a keyboard on a computer screen attached to his wheelchair, and word for word, letter for letter, he's able to communicate. And this is how he did that. And so he ended up finding a way to then write emails and write stories, became a local editor in a paper. He started writing these daily devotionals to former players, coaching colleagues, really anyone who would listen, and he was sharing his perspective about how his priorities had changed, about how through his battle with ALS and Lou Gehrig's disease, where it used to be all baseball, 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 he realized number one most important thing in his life was his relationship with God. Number two was his family, and then number three was baseball. You can imagine what a powerful message that is, and whether you're young, old, sick, healthy, everybody resonates with that message. There's even a book that's been written about him now called Coaching Third, which is him in the third base coaching box, but the book is about how coaching became his third priority. And so he fought this battle for 5 years, and it got tough at the end because he lost the ability to blink. And so his caregiver would have to put a gel solution in his eyes just to keep his eyes moist so they wouldn't get infected. Had to stitch his eyelids shut at night so he could sleep. And just think about the quality of life there. He ended up passing away in July of '06. And I was lucky. I got to call and talked to his wife. She put the phone to his ear. And I got to tell him I loved him, I thanked him, and I told him on behalf of all of us that played on those teams, you see in the top right corner, the 6 of us that were on that one team that all coach college baseball, that all wear number 23, that we would continue his inspiration, continue his legacy, and we would get to Omaha for him since he never got to go. And that's why I do it. That's what winds my clock. That's what fires me up. I want every player that I get the opportunity to coach to have that same experience that we had as players, which we would say was priceless. But getting back to perspective, if I ever think I'm having a bad day, right? I don't feel so good, I didn't sleep much last night. Well, compared to what? Compared to Coach LeClaire? No, only have good days and great days. And this is an exercise that our entire team does. It's super powerful. If you only took one thing from this talk, do this. And you'll learn a lot about your team, a lot about these guys individually, maybe what drives them, what the reasons behind their personalities. But this was awesome. We did this in the month of November with our team, and it was great to hear, some of these guys and gave them great perspective as well. And it gave them at a time where student athletes are more in a, serve it up type mindset. Instead of what can I get, start thinking, maybe what can I give? And instead of always getting serviced, how can I serve others? And it puts them more in that attitude of gratitude mindset. And when someone is aware of being grateful and their mind goes to, instead of, what's somebody's angle and what are they, cynical, it's more they're seeing the good and they're expecting something good to happen. There's a lot of health benefits that go to that as well. And inside the brain, since we're talking about the brain, there's some pathways neurologically that get rewired to where a person always goes to find the good and expects something good to happen and sees the good in people. And with a lot of these kids, as we're dealing with as coaches, with happiness and stress and anxiety, it's one way to get that happiness level up. Big component of our program, you see what I'm for this for a reason. Got this slide up here for a reason. I'm the grandson of a World War II veteran and the son of a Vietnam veteran. Standing for the national anthem is something that's very important to me and our program. And so we actually practice how we stand for the national anthem. And this is something that, getting back to perspective and gratitude, we have deep appreciation for getting to play baseball in such a great country. And for 2 minutes, it's an opportunity to pay our respect to the men and women who defend our country, defend our freedom, and ultimately lay down the ultimate sacrifice. So for us, how we stand for the national anthem, you come watch us play. I don't know what the score is going to be, what's going to happen, but you can expect that you will watch Clemson baseball stand in unison every time that song is played, heels out, left hand holding the roll of quarters on their left pant leg, 4 fingers on top of the hat, thumb on top of the bill, thumb underneath, hand on their heart, hat on their chest, chin up, chest out. We'll hold this position the entire time. We won't scratch our head, we won't talk to our partner, we won't look in the stands, and we'll hold this position. We'll count to 3 after that last note is played. It will be hat on, right shoulder turn. And it just comes from a deep, deep appreciation for the opportunities that we have. Not a political message, nothing like that. It just comes from a deep appreciation and gratitude for getting to play baseball in a free country. Lastly, effort, and I'm going fast in this, and I apologize for that, but I really want to get to mental skills. Lastly, effort, and everybody knows what effort looks like. We all know it takes no talent to hustle, but we frame it in this way. We frame it as we're all renters, and nobody owns their positions. Our shortstop doesn't own the shortstop position. I don't own the head coaching position at Clemson. Coach Wilhelm had it for 38 years. Coach Leggett had it for 22. Then it was Coach Lee's, and now, I'm the caretaker of Clemson, and we're just renters. And so if you get back to effort and our players, well, what's effort? Well, effort's paying the rent. Well, how much? Well, 100%. Well, when's the rent due? Every day, right? So that's kind of a fun way to say it. We talk a lot about having a high gas tank. Gas doesn't stand for gasoline, stands for give a, what. And then we talk a lot about competing. Somewhere in this world of participation trophies, this world that we live in, my 13-year-old and my 10-year-old play travel ball, and they both finished second place in a weekend regional travel ball tournament and got a huge ring. And I'm thinking to myself, what I'm happy as a dad, I'm like, sweet, that's an awesome ring. But the coach in me is like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're giving championship rings to second place at the regional travel ball tournament for a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. They got all these rings on their dressers. And, you guys remember, the trophy used to only go to the champion. When we get rings, it's hard to get a championship ring. It's hard, right? And somewhere along the way, we have diminished this idea of competing because everybody gets the ring and everyone gets a trophy. And I'm here to tell you today, we as coaches have to prioritize competing. And we just look at it as striving together. And competing for us is getting back to effort, is about giving your best effort. Whatever that 100% looks like for you, that's what we ask for. And we finish every training session with a competition. And we want hyper-competitive dudes. And you all know what your most competitive guys look like. And we appreciate it because it brings us back to that nostalgic feeling. But we tell them, and even tell the youth campers, when the youth campers come, we talk about this in youth camp, about how it's okay to want to be number one. It's okay to want to be the best. It's okay to want to set records. It's okay to want to get great grades. It's okay to want to be a champion. As long as it's not about you. It's not about your personal accolades and your personal stats. It's okay to want to do all those things when you're representing a team. you're representing a family, a community, a school, then it's okay. But a lot of these guys, this slide is going to go a completely different direction than maybe you think. But a lot of these guys will always do, maybe just enough. Or the inter-team competition is something that's real. And I'll ask our guys, I asked them this just the other day, how many of you guys have a girlfriend? And, half the team raised their hand, the other half was lying. And I said, how many of you guys told your girlfriend this morning, hope you have a good day? And, they raised their hand. I said, how many of you guys said, hope you have a good day, just not as good as me? And they all looked at me like, where's he going with this? But within a team, especially when you have position battles, that's what you got. Hope you have a good day, just not as good as me. You got guys battling for positions, and you want that competition within the team, but it needs to be framed as I'm competing against my best effort, he's competing against his best effort, we're both trying to beat whatever our best effort is. And when it's time to play another jersey and play another shirt, and us versus them, and it's me versus you, that competition, you as the hitter or pitcher versus the other team, then great. Then great, but on a team, we just need everybody, think of it as a race, and everyone's running their fastest race, not just running just fast enough to beat the guy next to them, but truly giving 100% of whatever they got. All right, one thing that ties kind of all of this together, all the attitude, perspective, and effort, and to kind of really create that mindset and that shared bond within the team is something that we all needed as babies, is something that everybody needs, and that's encouragement and positive touch. And you see it in sport with the high five and the fist bump and the bro hug and the pat on the back, pat on the butt. But we don't always know why, but we do know this. We know that the teams that touch the most win the most. And getting back to the brain, there's a chemical in the brain that floods your system when you have positive touch. And that chemical is oxytocin. And it is so powerful just to encourage the high five and the fist bump and the bro hug. And we have our guys do this even when we're doing dynamic warm-up and in those lines. But it's something that when you see it, and you see it in professional baseball, you recognize it. Maybe you spin it as, oh, they're just doing their handshakes, but it's real. The teams that win the most touch the most, and so when we're doing our umpire meeting, our guys will be out, and they will be practicing different handshakes and doing fist bumps, and it's not because we're trying to look cool. It's simply because we want them to have that feeling and anchor in that feeling that this is something that will help our team, will help us grow, will help us be successful on the field. So we encourage a lot of touch. All right, so that's kind of a mindset. Mental skills is really going to describe more the how. How are they going to compete? Because we talk about a system, and this goes back to Ken Revisa. Our system is awareness, release, focal point, visualization, breath, self-talk, compete. And all that has to be done within a 15-second funnel of competing pitch to pitch. So I'm going to break these down individually for you, chunk them one by one, but these are the skills that it may not be necessary when you got a really good player who's just physically better than everybody else. But everybody, as they climb that pyramid, and there's a 90% drop-off rate and only a 10% retention rate. Every level you go at baseball, the talent from the neck down starts to even out. And the talent from the neck up is the separator. So for us, we use Ken Revisa's model of the traffic light system of just having awareness of those internal signal lights. Green, autopilot, total trust. The ball looks this big as a hitter, as a pitcher, everything's hitting all your spots. It's the yellow and the red that we really need to deal with, because the yellow and the red go back to those things that happen to you. Either you're doing it to yourself, or someone or something is in response to an umpire's bad call, a fan heckling you, equipment failure, or whatever. Coach yells at you, your teammates, your girlfriend, all this other stuff. So it's these yellow lights that we really need to deal with, and those yellow lights a lot of times come from either what you do or what happens to you. But with what you do, we like to talk about the 3 Ps. And this is you're gonna think about your team and then think about which guys fall into the 3 Ps. You got the football player, you got the aggressive kid, he's probably gonna get primal. When the game starts to speed up on him, he's gonna try harder. He's gonna white knuckle the bat, he's gonna white knuckle the ball, and he's gonna think, I'm gonna do caveman on it, right? Get the S on his chest. And we all know the harder you try in baseball, a lot of times the worse it gets. It's not like you can just go tackle somebody. We all have the prayer guy. The prayer guy is just hope he doesn't hit it to me, hope he doesn't throw me this pitch, hope he don't hang this breaking ball. He's in a prayer zone, and that's not a good place to be either. And then you have a lot of your guys that will be in this perfect mode, where they think their mechanics have to be perfect. And they're out there competing, thinking about mechanics. And I laugh at, because my kids are in that age of 10 and 13, and I hear all these coaches and dads shouting out mechanics while their kid is on the mound or in the box. And I'm just thinking to myself, you're not helping, And it happens all the time. But then you get the kids start thinking about their mechanics when they should be in compete mode and not thinking about anything mechanical. That would be green lights. What are you thinking about? Nothing. They're on autopilot. But they get in this prayer mode. And then a lot of times, they don't even realize it. They think they're thinking good thoughts, but that thought starts with the word don't. And we all know what happens when we say don't think about pink elephants. Well, don't think about hanging this breaking ball. Don't think about chasing this slider in the dirt. Your brain thinks in pictures. So whatever's after don't is what your players are going to think, or what your brain, let me say that another way, is what your brain is going to visualize. So we need to get them, instead of trying to think about what they're trying to avoid, get them focused on what they're trying to do. And then the red lights, that's you've spiraled out of control, that's the glove spike, the hat throw, the I hate baseball, the I suck. And we don't want to be there. So we want to attack the yellow lights. We need to have awareness of when we're speeding up, when the heart rate's starting to race, when the breathing gets shallow, when the eyes get shifty, and we as coaches are seeing this as well, and this is when we can help try to slow the guy down. But all these players, they need a physical release so they can flush the previous pitch. Because the previous pitch is gone, it's history, and some of these kids hold on to these previous pitches like it's some kind of a mental brick, and they're trying to throw 2, 3 baseballs at once, trying to see 3 baseballs come at them at a time. We all know this guy. We've all done it. Umpire makes a terrible call, first pitch of the AB. You end up you foul one off, a couple of balls go by, you end up punching out on the 4th, 5th, 6th pitch of the at-bat, and as you're walking back to the dugout, you say, that first pitch was terrible, right? And you're still stuck on the first pitch. First pitch was gone 4 pitches ago. And this is a way to get them to be able to play pitch to pitch if they have a physical release. A hitter may unstrap his batting gloves. He may spit. He may take his helmet off. He may kick dirt. A pitcher may take his glove off, take his hat off. They're going to physically do something so they don't spiral out of control and get into red. So, of course, we all want to be in green. We all want to have our best days. We all want to have our A game. But very rarely do you have your A game. Very rarely does the body feel perfect. All right? And one thing we tell our players, we're not that bad that we need every call. We saw a lot of this whenever we'd have bad calls. But we're not that bad. We don't need every call. In fact, there's 4 umpires out there. We'll play 13 against 9. It's good. Get your mind right. You're not that bad. You don't need every call. In fact, you feel like you got your C- game today? Well, guess what? You're going to have to compete with your C- game and believe that your C- game is better than his A+ game. And it just gets back to mindset. So, of course, we want to be in green, but we're going to be in yellow. We're big believers in Jocko. You can see that, but if you know who Jocko Willink is, you know what good is. If you don't know who Jocko Willink is, I would say maybe the most important thing is to watch Jocko and good. So you're going to have yellow lights. The game's going to speed up. Things are going to start to spiral out of control. And if you can't release them, you're going to have to compete with them. But things Jocko talks about in relating his time as a Navy SEAL commander to business, to baseball, to sport, to anything, it's just that ability to be able to pick yourself up when adversity hits, because adversity is going to hit. The garbage is going to hit the fan, so let's be ready for it. And that's what this is about, so we don't get out of control and spiral there. So we'll have our guys do a worksheet. They'll recognize what they're thinking, feeling, doing when they hit each one of those. And then as they go through this pitch-to-pitch routine, whether they have awareness and need to release some yellow lights or not, they're always going to go to their focal point. And this focal point is something that they will do after they get the sign. So they'll get their sign from me. A lot of times a pitcher may even see that focal point and then get the sign from the catcher, but the focal point happens right around the time of getting the sign from the coach or the catcher. And this focal point is just gives them the mindset that this next pitch is all that matters, that they need to be present. They need to be where they are because this pitch is all that matters. This pitch that they're about to see or about to throw is the most important pitch of their life. Just like you guys have been in a million clinics, I've given a million talks. What's the most important clinic you've ever been to? What's the most important clinic I've ever spoke at? This one. Why? Because it's happening right now. And that's being able to play pitch to pitch, having that mindset that whatever you're doing right now is the most important thing you've ever done. And you could relate that to a rep in the weight room, to a pitch being thrown in competition. All right? But all of these, to be able to play pitch to pitch, if winning the pitch is the target, then these are the steps that lead up to winning the pitch. And everything kind of has this funnel to this target behavior. And that funnel and that target could be throwing a bullpen that day. And maybe this kid has certain steps that he takes so he can have a very competitive bullpen. But maybe he doesn't always do that. Or maybe that's a day of training, or maybe that's an at-bat. But whatever it is, we want to be consistent and have this routine. The breath is something that the next three, breath, visualization, and self-talk, get directly involved with the brain because these are the down regulators. These are going to be the drivers of lowering cortisol, getting your control, lowering that stress, and being able to compete at a high level. Most kids breathe through their mouth. We don't want them to breathe through their mouth. We want them to breathe through their nose. The benefits of nasal breathing and lowering that stress on the body are huge. There's been a great book written just about nasal breathing called Breath by James Nestor, but breathing through the nasal cavity actually purifies and filters the air. Think of it like nutrition, because all of us, at a cellular level, your cells need nutrients and oxygen. That's what our cells need. And so think of it like nutrition. You can eat garbage or you can eat good food. And not that breathing through your mouth is garbage. Of course it's not. And the harder you work and the more you sweat and the more you expend energy, the more you have to breathe through your mouth. But if you can get them breathing through their nose more, they're getting much higher quality of oxygen, purified, filtered air that gives better oxygen into the blood, into the muscles, into the brain. All right? So, you want to call someone, want to insult somebody, call them a mouth breather. That's what we tell them. I got a video here. I don't think the sound is hooked up, but there's a great video on MLB Tonight talking about Giancarlo Stanton and the difference between breathing through his mouth and breathing through his nose, and when he was breathing through his nose, how it turned his vision on. And it was Sean Casey gave the talk. They did a great job talking about it. The sound's not on, but it was an MLB Tonight, and he's talking about breathing through the nose. So I'm not going to play it, but you can look it up. It's awesome. Sean Casey had a great point. He said, when I felt like I was breathing through the nose, it turned my vision on. I thought that's a good way to say it, because visualization is the next. We ask our guys to take a 4-second breath as they compete pitch to pitch. 2 seconds in through the nose, 1 second hold, 1 second exhale. And as they're taking that breath, we're asking them, remember that slide about don't and visualization? We're asking them to visualize the desired outcome. Not the desired, let me rephrase that. Not visualize the desired outcome. We want them to visualize the pitch that they're trying to either throw or hit. All right, and this whole idea of thoughts become things and what you put out there in the universe, whether you subscribe to that or not, may be real or not real, but what is real is people who think negatively a lot of times have a lot of negative things happen, and people who think positively have a lot of positive things, and that has to do with mental proximity and your awareness of things that you want and then taking the steps for how to get them. So we talked to our players and said, okay, name me a fancy car. And everybody says, what do you say? If I say, name me an awesome sports car. Ferrari, thank you. So you say Ferrari, all right? What color do you want that Ferrari to be? Let's think Clemson here. What Clemson color do we like? Yeah, orange Ferrari. Well, if you want an orange Ferrari, then what do you need to get an orange Ferrari? You need money. Well, if you want to have enough money to get an orange Ferrari, what do you need to do with your money? Yeah, you need to save it. Well, once you get enough saved and you want to grow your money, then what do you got to do to grow it? Yeah, you got to invest it, and then you can get your Ferrari. So we talked to our guys about mental proximity, and a lot of these kids, as they start driving, they start to become more aware of, since we're sticking with the car theme, they start to become more aware of, parallel parking, or people who park good, people who park bad, people who are driving. And it's the same thing with their results. It's the same thing with their goals. If you start to put that in your focal point and your mental proximity, then you start to realize, here's the steps that I need to take in order to get those. Right? It's a powerful thing. Here's a video of David Goggins. Big fan of David Goggins. And we've got about 3 seconds, and then he starts dropping F-bombs. But David Goggins in that video said, self-talk and visualization are the keys to his success. And Jocko, David Goggins, Navy SEALs, big fan of those guys. This guy, Major James Naismith, POW, 7 years. POW, average golfer, the power of visualization, he activated all of his senses, he passed the time as a POW visualizing to the detail, to the grass cut, to the temperature, to the bunker, to the water hazard. He visualized everything and turned on all of his senses, how the club felt, how the grass smelled, what the sights were, what the sounds were, came out. His golf game improved. There's some people who say he became a scratch golfer. I don't know if I believe that, but his golf game improved because of the power of visualization. This is what we're visualizing if you're a pitcher. You can't control if this guy swings and misses. You have no control over the outcome. So instead of visualizing the strikeout, have your guys visualize the sinker to the spot. And we use this good MLB, got the K zone, they kind of do that tailing line at the end, and you've got to get them to see the last 6 feet of where they want that ball to go, whether they're sticking it in there or burying a pitch. That's the visual we want them to have. Visualize the pitch you're trying to execute and execute, not the outcome. Same thing with a hitter. Wherever the pitch is that you're trying to smash or whatever you're trying to do, visualize that pitch, visualize yourself taking a great swing, visualize perfect fat back contact, but you don't control what happens after that. You may hit the hardest ball of your life in the center field that goes like this. So visualize the pitch that you're looking for, and that's it. So they finish that breath, they see what they're looking for, or see what they're trying to do, and they anchor this in with words that they say to themselves, and we call this either self-talk or mantra. And this whole idea is just getting them to believe that they are maybe bigger and better than they are. But what happens with a lot of high school players, college players, they don't talk to themselves in a positive way. They listen to themselves. There's a big difference between listening to yourself and talking to yourself. So a lot of times you don't feel good. My wrist hurts, got a headache, a sore throat. You start listening to all the things and all the reasons versus talking to yourself and saying, no, I can, I will, I am, all right? But the feelings are false. They're literally created inside of your head. And people who have fear, Not saying nobody's scared of anything, that's not what I'm saying, but think about performance anxiety and fear. Nobody's putting it in there. Not saying there's not danger. You could get hit by a pitch. There's danger, but a lot of these kids, they're creating this inside their own head. And that's insane. So we may need to label these, and we have to help our players label these, because a lot of times they'll label them as destructive when they could be constructive. So everybody has that feeling of those butterflies, but are those butterflies because you're nervous and unprepared, or you're excited, you're ready? All right, and we can help them with that, and we can help stay off the mental roller coaster, because the physical roller coaster is going to happen. All of our players' performance are going to ebb and flow, and they're going to go up and down. And what we don't want is we don't want our mindset to go up and down and ride those same highs and lows with performance. We want our mindset to be as even as possible. And you're in for a long, high, low, up, down season when they don't. Right? But your brain is a supercomputer, and your self-talk is the programming, so we want to program it the right way. We want to say the right things and talk to ourselves the right way. This was a study at Michigan 2 years ago, and we started doing this with our players. It's called self-distancing. So instead of saying I am, I can, I will in self-talk, use the third person. Say that their first name. Jack is. Brian is. Instead of I am a stud, Brian is a stud. Jack is a stud. Takes the ego, takes the hubris out. It also sounds like somebody's saying it about them and they believe it. Gave this option to our Clemson players, and about 90% of them, their self-talk is in the third person. All right, a lot of these guys, they've got this inner warrior dial. And we're playing South Carolina. That warrior dial is going to be on level 10 for a lot of those guys, but that may not be where they play the best. All right, we're playing a midweek game, and that warrior dial may be low, and it needs to be higher. So they need to figure out where do they perform the best mentally and be able to adjust that dial up and down. So awareness of their internal traffic lights, release if they have a negative, any negative self-talk, or they're speeding up or have yellow lights. Then they find that focal point. They take that breath. They see what they're trying to do. They anchor it in with positive self-talk, and then it's all about this. Just go compete. This routine is getting us to go compete and win this pitch. And those are some mental skills that we use with our team, and we finish every message I send them with this. Instead of let's friggin' go, we say let's friggin' grow, because it's all about growth, and there's no finish line. Once you start that path on growth and improvement, you'll be a lifelong learner. You'll be someone who always is looking to improve. So we always say, LF grow. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. Stick around. We got Coach Schnabel up next talking about infield play. And I'll circle back about a body swing connection after that. But appreciate you guys. Fired up to be back in the great state of South Carolina. Good result.